Hi. Welcome back to the movie break. Today we are going to watch psychological horror thriller film called The Lodge. The film starts with a woman named Laura taking her children, Aiden and Mia, to visit their father, Richard. Upon arriving at Richard's home, while in the kitchen, Richard informs Laura that he and his new girlfriend named Grace Marshall, whom he met while researching a book about an extremist Christian cult, are engaged, and he plans to marry her in the fall. Laura storms out and returns to her home, where she commits suicide by blowing her brains out. Laura is laid to rest by her family. All are upset. Her daughter Mia is heartbroken and crying, since being a devout Catholic family, she believes her mother won't get into heaven for killing herself. 6 months later, Richard tells Aiden and Mia that he is planning to spend Christmas at his girlfriend, Grace's family's lodge, in rural western Massachusetts, in an attempt to bond between his children and his girlfriend. Both kids are completely against his idea, since they blame Grace for their mother's suicide. Angry Aiden even curses at his father for his mother's death. At night, Aiden and Mia go on Richard's computer to look up an article about Grace's past. They finds that Grace was part of a religious cult, led by her father, Aaron. Grace was raised in the cult, and the only survivor of cult. Everyone in the cult committed suicide, so that Grace can live and pass on the cult's teachings. Photos and videos are seen with the cult members, blindfolded, and having a piece of tape on their mouths, with sin written on it. Although Richard does know all about Grace's past, he wants his kids to understand that she has put all this behind her, and has tried to adjust to a normal life. The kids join Richard and Grace on their trip to the lodge, along with Grace's dog named Grady. Grace makes an earnest attempt to connect with Aiden and Mia, though they are cold toward her. Upon arriving in the lodge, everyone gets settled, with Grace and Richard fooling around in the next room, which the kids can hear. Next day, everyone goes outside on the icy lake. The kids get upset when Grace comes out wearing a hat that belonged to their mother, Laura. Moments later, Mia drops a doll in the water and tries to reach it. Grace gets her away and tries to get the doll herself, but the ice breaks and Grace falls through. Richard manages to pull her out before long. Richard gets a work call from his office and is called to work in the city until he can return for Christmas. Richard returns for work by leaving Grace in charge of the kids for the time being. He leaves Grace with his gun, just in case. Grace keeps trying to befriend Aiden and Mia, but they continue to avoid her or just rudely dismiss her. Grace's unease is compounded by the abundance of Catholic iconography in the cabin, which causes her to have nightmares about her father. Tensions rise after Grace catches Aiden watching her shower. Grace calls Aiden out for doing this. Aiden makes it clear that she will never match up to their mother. However, he softens, and one night, he prepares Grace a cup of cocoa, while she and Mia watch movies. During which, the siblings decide to use a gas heater indoors, and Grace wonders whether it is safe. In the morning, Grace awakens to discover that her belongings, including her clothing, psychiatric medication, and her pet dog, are missing, as well as all the food and Christmas decorations. A storm is going on outside, leaving them snowed in. The generator has gone out, leaving all of their cell phones dead. Grace suspects the children have pranked her, but finds their belongings missing as well. She notices that the clocks have advanced to January 9th, and sees words like, "Repent," written on the mirror. Aiden tells her he had a dream that the heater malfunctioned and killed them all, and now he thinks all of this happening to them because they are dead. Days pass, and Grace grows more anxious due to the lack of medicines, as well as the increasing cold and hunger. One day, she thinks she hears Mia talking on the phone, and barges in to expose her lie, but finds cell phone is off, and that she was just pretending to talk. Grace starts experiencing other weird things around, like hearing the voice of her father preaching his sermons. Without Grace medicines, she also begins sleepwalking and seeing bizarre visions and dreams. Grace attempts to go into town for help, but ends up getting herself lost. She wanders in the cold and is barely visible areas, until she finds a cabin shaped like a cross. She sees her father beckoning to her. She eventually travels in a circle, and ends up making her way back to the lodge, where she finds a frame with a picture of Aiden and Mia, that says, "In loving memory," even though they all are alive. Inside, Aiden asks her meaning of the lines, "In loving memory," written in the photo frame. Grace is confused, and says that she don't know. But Aiden claims again, that they are already dead, and expresses his fear, that they may be in the afterlife. Grace refuses to believe him, because she can feel hunger and cold. Grace suffers a nervous breakdown. Later, inside, she finds the children frantically praying over a newspaper article, detailing the deaths of all three of them, from carbon monoxide poisoning on December 22. Aiden hysterically insists they are in purgatory, but Grace refuses to believe him. Aiden tells her that he can prove her, and he hangs himself in the attic. He seems unaffected, as proof that they are already dead. Grace suffers a serious nervous breakdown. She finally loses it, and goes out in the snow, by aimlessly walking on her knees, and praying, and children sees her, from the window. She finds her dog, frozen to death outside. She comes back, with her dog's frozen dead body. This causes Mia to break down and cry, as she blames herself for what happened, as she left the door open for him to get out. Grace now truly believes Aiden, that they are in purgatory, and can only repent for their sins. She stays outside the whole night, even as Mia pleads with her to go back inside. Grace begins her penance by burning her legs on hot logs. The kids begin to grow concerned for Grace, as it is revealed that children have been gaslighting Grace into thinking that she was going crazy this whole time, to take revenge on her for their mother's death, and having drugged her tea. They stole her medicines and other belongings, and then hid them in a crawlspace. They also played recordings of her father's sermons at night via wireless speaker. Children has been calling Richard daily so that he will not suspect something is wrong with their own phones that dead at last. The children unsuccessfully attempt to start the generator and bring Grace her medication, but find her now completely insane. Wholly convinced that they are in purgatory and must do penance to ascend to heaven. Kids then lock themselves in the attic, as they are now terrified of Grace, but are confronted by Grace, in the morning, who insists they must sacrifice something for the Lord, in order to go in the heaven, and begins burning the children's belongings. Later, Richard returns to the lodge, while Grace is frostbitten and fully mad. She has the kids with her and is holding Richard's gun. Richard tries to talk her down, but she is convinced they are dead. Richard tries to get his gun back, but in an attempt to prove her belief that they are in purgatory, she fires the gun at him, killing him. The kids rush to Richard's body before running outside. Aiden and Mia attempt to flee in the car, but get stuck in the snow. Grace forces the children back into the lodge, where she seats them at the dinner table, with their father's corpse, and sings, "Nearer, my God, to thee." She then affixes pieces of duct tape reading, "Sin," to each of their mouths, before contemplating the gun to kill them. This is all from today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.